Hey guys, and welcome to part 2 of my Dyson V15 review. So in this part, I want to really put it through its paces. I'm gonna use each of those accessories, those different heads, and I'm going to run some real-life performance tests on them. Just a quick note, I'm not using an anemometer and airflow meter for this because I think that's been done to death. If you want to know those numbers and statistics, you can either go to Dyson's website or you can watch the Vacuum Wars video. Now, what I've got on the floor there are, crumbled wheat bakes, some cornflakes and dried peas, and then some nuts thrown in there for good measure, just to act as large debris. All this stuff is what magical elves tend to leave on our floors in the evening somehow. We managed to catch one in action right there, and that's the kind of mess we normally deal with at the end of a typical kitchen hangout session. So as you can see, it's done a pretty good job with the cornflakes. And now we're going to move on to the dried green peas. The reason I chose these peas is because they're actually quite hard to vacuum. They sort of tend to fly around everywhere, and they actually cause quite a ruckus as well. It was actually very noisy. I had to mute out all that noise afterwards in post-processing. But they tend to spin around inside the head for a little while, especially with these high torque heads. And it was not a problem though. At the end of the day, they all ended up in the canister. Now, the other thing I want to mention is for this test, I don't have the aperture fully open or fully closed. I have it right there in the middle. So it's just the standard setting that the head comes with. I haven't tinkered around with that too much because I didn't really have to until a little bit later in the test. So as you can see, it's done a really good job with the peas so far. It hasn't snowplowed. Typically, that's what happens if you don't have those gates in front. And then I should also mention that I have the vacuum cleaner mode set to auto as well. So I was talking about edge cleaning earlier, and those are the little grooves that you have on the side there with the vacuum. That's going to help you with fine dust or fine debris. It's not really going to help me with the peas in this case because the peas are quite large. Then I'm going to fit through those grooves. But that's some smart engineering Dyson's part. They've added those little grooves so it sort of picks up stuff around the edges as you're going over it as well. So let's run through the rest of the video very quickly in the interest of time. I was actually really happy with the job this did on my floors. This is really a carpet tool to begin with. It's not exactly for floors. It's sort of a multi-purpose, maybe at best. The only thing it left on my floors at the end of the test were really large macadamia pieces, and if I really tried hard, I could probably also vacuum those up. So I just wanted to quickly show you all the stuff that we vacuumed up earlier. So you can see all those green peas and the wheat bakes crumbs in there. No blockages, which was really great, I thought. And then emptying it is just as easy as 1, 2, 3. You basically stick it inside your bin and then push that lever forward, and it kind of shoots all that debris inside the bin. I really like this, actually. This is a really cool feature, I think. I reviewed the LG earlier, and over there it was not quite as easy, to be honest. You actually had to sort of vacuum out the insides sometimes, in fact. The filter itself is clean, we can see that, and I haven't found the filter getting dirty all too often. So on to testing the hair screw tool. So for this one, I wanted to make it a specific test with different lengths of of hair really, and I couldn't really get my hands on a hair that's as long as 150 centimeters and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a thread that I know does tangle on other vacuum cleaners, and I've cut it to very specific lengths. I've marked those lengths there on my coffee table, and I'm going to vacuum it up and then show you the head as proof that it hasn't tangled. So it did really well with the 30 and 60s. I didn't have to even run it for a few seconds to get rid of the hair from it. It just vacuumed it straight up, and yeah, the thread has ended up there, as you can see, inside the canister. And then moving on to the 90, it actually still I apologize for the lost focus there. I think it was a little hard for my camera to focus that, but yeah, I did vacuum that 90 centimeter thread, and yeah, it has ended up right there in the canister without tangling at all. So moving on to the 120 centimeters, again, it performed really, really well. I did not have to run the vacuum cleaner after vacuuming it up. It went straight in. So it was pretty amazing, actually. I I did test other cleaner heads with this, and yeah, this thread got tangled up every single time. And then the 150 centimeter hair, and again, it did pretty well. I actually saw a little bit of that hair sticking out over there, and it didn't quite make it all the way to the canister, so I decided to just give it a press. And you probably can't see it that well, but yes, it did vacuum it up, and it all ended up at the canister in the end. So that's full marks to the Dyson on this technology. I think it works really well. So for our next test, we are going to look at the laser fluffy head. And you know, because the highlight of this is really the laser, I wanted to show you how this laser looks in different lighting conditions. So I'm going to start off with complete darkness, and as you can see, I am vacuuming my coffee table, which has got flour and some crumbled wheat bix on it, just sort of to simulate, you know, dirt being on the floor. And you can see that as I'm vacuuming, you know, you can see the dirt quite clearly, you know, and this is not pitch darkness. I've still got some lights on, as you can see there in the background. I've actually got a single light bulb, and then my kitchen lights were on dim. So if I were to describe it, I would say that it would be hard to read in this light, but you could still walk around without bumping into objects. So, you know, just to give you a bit of an idea, because it's quite hard to, you know, visualize the light on camera, because, you know, you've got post-processing and all these other sort of things. So you can see that it is really doing a great job, you know, showing you the dirt on that coffee table there. And, you know, you can see that as you're going over it, you know, you're really, it's coming out almost spotless. So I've now turned up my lights to 50% brightness, just to show you what this looks like in dimly lit room. And as you can make out from that video, it is still really useful in locating dirt, even at this level of ambient lighting. And also worth a mention is that this fluffy head is actually pretty good at navigating, as you can see there. It's much better than the previous iteration. And on the whole, I am actually really happy with the way this handles. So we're now just going to turn up the brightness to 100%, just to show you how useful this laser is going to be in a well-lit room. And as you can make out in that video there, it's not as useful as it was, obviously, you know, when the room was completely dark. That's ideally how you'd want to vacuum with this if you want to get the most out of it. But it's still doing a pretty good job. I think it still beats, you know, having an LED or just having ambient lighting, you know, while vacuuming. So yes, it's definitely still useful. On the whole, is this a must-have feature? Probably not. I mean, ignorance is bliss, right? If you don't know there's dirt on your floors, you know, it's probably not going to bother you. Yeah, at the same time, it is very useful, and it turns the chore of vacuuming your house into something that's almost fun. So last but not least, I'm going to do a quick edge cleaning test, and for this I've just sprinkled some brown powder on the floor, and I'm going to show you how this performs head on, and then I'm also going to change the angle and show you how it performs sideways. So head on, you can see that was almost a perfect result in terms of the edge cleaning. And then moving on to sideways, I was expecting this to leave something in the corner, and that's the reason I've used brown powder on the white tile, is that if the laser doesn't spot it, then I will be able to see it with my own eyes. But I must say, I mean, I was quite surprised at how well this cleans around the edges, and I don't really know what the reason for this is, because I can't see on this fluffy head there being any grooves around the side or anything like that. But nevertheless, it actually does a pretty spectacular job of cleaning edges. And then on to the high torque cleaner head, and here it is going head on with the debris, and again, a pretty perfect result as far as that looks. And also while going sideways, now this one actually has a groove around the side, as we saw earlier. So yes, I would expect this to actually perform better than the other one. But I actually saw some dirt, and you can probably make it out there in the video. There was actually some residue left when cleaning this sideways, and I had to actually go head on again, as you can see there probably, to get rid of that dirt. So not a perfect result actually for the high torque cleaner head, but the Fluffy did surprisingly well on this test. So I just want to give you some closing thoughts before we end. Now under the pros, we have that laser fluffy head. We saw how well it performs earlier. It's nice to have that as part of the pack. It does make vacuuming quite fun. Then we have that innovative hair screw tool that works particularly well in the car where you might have a lot of hair, and it saves you some effort, of cleaning that out multiple times. You've got class leading suction at 230 air watt, which is the air watt figure, technically not just pure suction, but yes, that's the figure that's quoted. I think it's about 45 higher than the previous version. You get excellent after sales support from Dyson, and I've tried using their support multiple times, and they've been exceptional. I've had absolutely no complaints with the way they handle requests. You can chat with them online, you can tell them what the problem is, and they'll usually just send you a replacement outright. And then you can either send the part back or keep it, use it as a spare or whatever if it's got some use left in it. The bin design is extremely easy to maintain. I did not have any problem getting the bin to empty or cleaning the bin inside out. I could give it a sort of a deep clean once in a while. And then last but not least, I don't think this is talked about in a lot of reviews, but you have a lot of third-party accessory support for Dysons. I mean, you can go onto eBay or Amazon and buy their filters and all these different tools that work with their vacuum cleaners. So that does play a part into the whole value for money equation, because yes, you might be spending a bit more money outright, but the accessories are going to cost less. And then on to the cons. Yes, the price is on the higher side. This probably arguably costs $300 to $350 more than other vacuum cleaners in this range. Although I have seen the prices of other vacuum cleaners, for example the LG, creeping up towards that 13 or 1400 Australian dollar mark as well. So it really depends on what accessories you want, and these vacuum cleaners typically have a range of accessories. So yes, it can be more expensive than other models, but it really depends. It's kind of a subjective thing. It's not lightweight. It's kind of on the heavier side, in fact. And then with that inline bin design, it does add to its volume as well. And then yes, the accessory inclusion on the onset is quite limited. They only give you 3 or 4 accessories, and then yes, you can buy more third-party accessories, but that's all, that's got to be factored into the cost again. So before I end, I kind of want to answer the question, should you get this vacuum cleaner? Do I recommend it? Well, before I actually answer that, I wanted to give you, some other options in the market, and then talk a little bit more about who the Dyson V15 is for. So first of all, the highlight of this vacuum cleaner is really, let's be honest, that laser fluffy head. That's only relevant to you if you have hard floors. So if you don't have hard floors, you've got carpets, I would say definitely don't get the V15, get something else, right? You can get the V10, the V8, they're all perfectly good vacuum cleaners, or you could look elsewhere and get another brand. A few things to keep in mind when getting a vacuum cleaner. I would say I prefer vacuum cleaners with the cyclone dust filtration. For instance, the Tinco Pure 1 S12 doesn't have that. So I just want to call that out. That means that you're going to have to clean your filters out quite often. And they say they give you a tool for it, etc. But, really speaking, it's going to mean more maintenance. Also, how easily you can empty the bin should definitely factor in. The Samsung Jet 90 has a terrible bin design. You got to remove the whole bin and then empty it. Or you can get that optional stand, but then again, you still have to remove the bin. And then, after sales support also really factors in. The LG Cord Zero, in my experience, the after sales support wasn't that great. So consider all these things. But, in summary, if you don't have hard floors, then definitely don't get this. If you do have them, then consider, do you really have that much fine dust lying around that you need the Dyson V15 Detect to spot for you? If you don't, and if you have a reasonably clean house, or if you clean every day anyway, or if you have a robot vacuum cleaner, perhaps, with a simple floor layout and not many obstacles, then you don't need this vacuum cleaner, and you can look elsewhere and save yourself, $200 or $300. But if you have a larger budget and you really like the features on the V15 Detect, do I recommend this? Yes, absolutely. I don't think any other vacuum cleaner actually comes close in terms of features, especially if you have hard floors. And these things tend to last a long time as well. My last DC45 is 8 years old. It still works, and Dyson still sells the battery for it. How great is that? After 8 years, they still support that accessory, and I can just go onto their website and buy it, and they deliver it to my place. So I really like the after sales support, really like the features. And I think in some cases, your extra money spent pays off over time. So keep that in mind when making a purchase. Now, if you enjoyed watching this video, please like and subscribe. I noticed that only 2% of my viewers are actually subscribers, and it would really help me if you click that subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate your time.